A 3-goal lead vanishes in Nashville. Manitoba gears up for a trade fight with Washington, and the Sens lean into inclusivity with a jersey you might recognize from TV. Let's get into it. Quick Ottawa weather check. Sunny with a high of -20 and a low of -33 degrees Celsius. Let's start with the Ottawa Senators, because the story of the week is momentum, how fast it can swing and how costly it's been. Ottawa has blown a multi-goal lead 3 times in the last 4 games. The latest gut punch came in Nashville. A 3-0 lead evaporated, and Steven Stamkos completed a hat trick, burying the winner with just over 2 minutes left as the Predators roared back 5-3. Josi marked his 1,000th NHL game and chipped in on the tying goal. And Ottawa's penalty kill again, cracked at the worst possible moments. If there's a theme to this season's slide, it's the inability to manage waves in game. One bad shift, one penalty, and the dam seems to burst. There were bright spots. Steven Halliday netted his first NHL goal on the trip. But as the standings tighten, the Sens core needs that next step in maturity, especially when the bench gets short and the pressure spikes. Down the road in Belleville, the AHL Senators are showing the opposite trend: composure. They're riding a 6-game point streak, 11 points over that stretch, after an extra frame win over Wilkes-Barre Scranton. Now comes a real measuring stick: 2 on the road against the Providence Bruins, one of the AHL's best, at 27-8-1-0, with a hefty +46 goal differential. Steven Halliday was briefly up with the big club, but returned to Belleville and kept producing 1 goal and 7 points in 5 games at the AHL level. The challenge? Injuries. Forwards Jake Chiasson, Ole Leixel, and Philippe Daoust are out, and Tyler Boucher's status is uncertain after a recent knock. If Belleville can bank points against Providence, it'll say a lot about their Calder Cup credentials. A quick feel-good local item: the Ottawa Senators are leaning into the popularity of the TV series Heated Rivalry by selling specialty Hollander and Rosenov jerseys. Net proceeds go to Ottawa Pride Hockey to support inclusivity at the grassroots level. It's a fan-driven move, and the team's existing relationship with Ottawa Pride Hockey helped get the donation effort off the ground fast. To national politics and foreign affairs, Ottawa's pushing back on Donald Trump's latest NATO remarks. The former U.S. president suggested that non-U.S. NATO allies weren't on the front line in Afghanistan, and questioned whether the U.S. ever truly needed allied support. Canadian officials and veterans are having none of it. Foreign Affairs Minister François-Philippe Champagne emphasized that history can't be rewritten, pointing to the sacrifice of allied troops, including 158 Canadians who lost their lives in Afghanistan. Defense Minister David McGuinty echoed that message, saying comments that erase the record of Canada and its partners undermine real contributions made over 2 decades of conflict. There's another Trump-Canada flashpoint this week, tied to China. Trump criticized Canada's fresh trade engagement with Beijing, and even claimed Canada opposed a so-called Golden Dome over Greenland, arguing it would protect Canada. He went further, saying the China-Canada deal would lead to China devouring Canada within a year. Prime Minister Mark Carney pushed back, saying Canada does not exist thanks to the United States. Trump, for his part, revoked an invitation for Carney to join his Council of Peace. Meanwhile, Carney's recent trip to China produced agreements on electric vehicles and canola, deals that could touch everything from prairie exports to Ontario's growing EV ecosystem. We'll track what, if anything, lands in the fine print and how it might affect jobs and supply chains here at home. Speaking of cross-border economics, Manitoba is getting its ducks in a row ahead of the next CUSMA round. The province convened a U.S. Trade Council to prep for negotiations, hoping to harden its position and protect its interests before talks heat up. For Ottawa businesses that sell into the U.S., this is a reminder: provinces aren't waiting around to define their priorities. On the political chessboard, in Quebec, Economy Minister Christine Fréchette says she'll run for the CAQ leadership and aims to be the next premier. Federally, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre won't run in Battle River Crowfoot next election. Damien Couric has reclaimed that nomination. In Toronto, Dr. Danielle Martin, chair of U of T's Family Medicine, has emerged as a preferred Liberal candidate for an upcoming by-election. And here at home, Alex Lawson, a home builder with notable political backing, plans to run for Ottawa mayor with a platform centered on housing and public safety, two issues carving up most local budgets and council debates. Housing and homelessness policy continues to be fraught. In Red Deer, the federal government canceled a $12 million affordable housing grant after council shot down a conditional zoning change that would have allowed up to 4 units per lot, part of the Housing Accelerator Fund. The federal government in Ottawa is now working with the city to figure out next steps. In London, frontline agencies are alarmed by a draft Good Neighbor clause that would tie funding to strict standards, clean and safe sites, community liaison committees, formal complaints processes, security plans, and a Good Neighbor plan, with the risk of contracts being terminated if standards aren't met. Service providers warn that heavy-handed enforcement could force reductions in service at a time when need is rising, risking a humanitarian crunch for people living unhoused. It's a debate many cities, including ours, are watching. Tech and policy collide this week too. Vancouver's Hootsuite is pursuing a contract to manage social media for U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement after signing a U.S. $95,000 pilot in September. It's controversial. Hootsuite walked away from a similar deal more than 5 years ago after internal backlash. But CEO Irina Novoselsky says the contract stands as long as ICE follows Hootsuite's terms of service. Closer to home, Ottawa is debating whether to set a social media age limit, potentially banning users under 14. Expect questions about enforceability, parental roles, youth mental health, and what platforms may need to build to comply. And because the internet can't help itself, there's a strange wave of nostalgia for 2016 making the rounds, a reminder that the timeline is undefeated at reinventing the past. Before we go, a quick recap on the Sens. But the penalty kill and in-game composure are costing them. If you're heading to a game, those heated rivalry jerseys support Ottawa Pride hockey. Worth a look. And for prospect watchers, Belleville's Test in Providence should be great hockey. Bundle up out there, sunny, with a high of -20 and a low of -33 degrees Celsius. If you've got thoughts on the social media age limit debate or your ideas for stabilizing the Sens special teams, send them our way.